guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I will be reviewing the Relentless Flame theme deck. I think this theme deck is really good at what it can do. It is very powerful, and I'll be reviewing it today to show you why. Starting off is the main card of the deck, Charizard. You get two of these. You get two of these monsters that can do over 200 damage. Ability is Roar and Resolve. Once during your turn, before you attack, you may put 2 damage counters on this Pokemon, so 20 damage. You will have to be careful since this Pokemon only has a 150 HP. However, it shouldn't be that bad. If you do, search your deck for up to 2 Fire Energy cards and attach them to this Pokemon. Then shuffle your deck. This card is really good in the theme deck format. Because alone, if you just put the 2 energy on there, you're doing 130. If you do a manual attachment, you do 180. If you do 2 manual attachments, you do 230. If you do 2 manual attachments and 2 Roar and Resolves, you can one-shot V-Maxes. This card is very good. It is one of the best cards in the theme deck format. I don't even know how it is in a theme deck. This is so good. Next up is Charmeleon. Its attack for 2 Fire Energy, Fire Fang, does 30 damage, and your opponent's active Pokemon is now burned. This attack isn't really anything too special. However, Charmeleon does evolve into Charizard, and Charmeleon does have some decent HP, so I gotta give it that at least. Next up is Charmander. Personally, Charmander's my favorite Pokemon. I just like it, and it has a decent attack early game. Ember for 1 energy does 30 damage, and you discard an energy from this Pokemon. It isn't really good. Early game, it's fine, but it's not really that good. Charmander does have an above average HP, and the retreat cost isn't too bad. I think this Charmander is fine for what it is, it's just to be evolved. Next up is Nidoqueen. You get 2 of these. The ability Queen's Call. Once during your turn, before you attack, you may search your deck for a Pokemon that isn't a Pokemon GX or Pokemon EX. You reveal it, and then you put it into your hand. Then you shuffle your deck. This ability is so powerful. You can set up evolutions. You can get evolution cards out, and its attack Power Lariat responds really well to that. This attack does 50 more damage for each evolution Pokemon on your bench. At max, you can do 260 damage, which is really high. However, don't expect to do that much damage. Expect to do like 110 or 160. 160 is the average. You get 2 of these though, so it is really good for a theme deck like this. Next up is Nidorina. Family Rescue, you shuffle 5 psychic Pokemon from your discard pile into your deck, is an okay attack depending on the situation. If all your Nidoqueens and Nidorans are in the discard pile, then this Nidorina is very good. However, that's its only purpose. It doesn't really do much other than just to evolve and maybe get its first attack out. Next up is Nidoran Female. Its first attack, Call for Family, is really good setting up for the early game. After you set up for the early game with Call for Family, you evolve Nidoran Female into Nidorina and then Nidoqueen. It's a really good early setup, and you should have this in your starting hand if you want to win. The final, what is supposed to be an attacker in this deck, is Rapidash. Its first attack, Searing Flame for 20 damage, it's fine. Its second attack though, oh, it is so good. For 2 Fire Energy, you do 60 damage, which is decent enough, and you flip a coin. If heads, prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon during your opponent's next turn. You can stall for multiple turns with this card if you get really lucky, and this card's already annoying on its own. So seeing it in a theme deck is really funny to me. The final fire type of this deck is Ponyta. Nothing really special. Its first attack does 10 damage. Second attack does 10 damage, and if you flip a coin and get heads, you do 40 damage. It's actually a good early game attacker. However, after the middle game, you want to evolve it into a Rapidash, or else you're probably gonna die. The final Pokemon of this deck is Farfetch'd. Its first attack, Collect, draws 2 cards. It's a really good early setup. Its second attack, Tool Buster, does 20 damage, and it's good. It's good if your opponent has tools. However, your opponent most likely won't have tools unless they're playing something that isn't a theme deck or a theme deck that needs something to win. However, other than that, this Farfetch isn't really anything too special. It's just an early game setup. The first supporter of this deck is Cynthia. Really, really powerful. You shuffle your hand into your deck, and then you draw 6 cards. If you have a bad hand, and Cynthia's in your hand, use this. You will get a better hand most of the time. Cynthia is really good, and I'm surprised that you get 2 of them in this deck. Now, in the Mock Strike deck, this makes sense. You know, Garchomp needs Cynthia to do 200 damage. However, this deck doesn't need Cynthia to do more damage. Cynthia's just there. The next card is Copycat. This is Cynthia. Next card is Copycat. This is Cynthia, but random. Shuffle your hand into your deck. You draw a card for each card in your opponent's hand. So your opponent says how many cards they have, and then you draw that many cards after you shuffle your deck. This can either be really bad or really good. If your opponent has at least 5 or more cards in your hand, if you have a bad hand, use this. You will get a better hand most of the time, just like Cynthia. I really like this card. Next up is Brock's Great. This is probably the best supporter in this deck by a long shot. Shuffle 6 in any combination of Pokemon and basic energy cards from your discard pile into your deck. This deck plays 20 fire energy. So, if you're low on fire energy, use Brock's Great, and then you can complement it into Charizard, and then do even more damage. This card is so good in a theme deck like this. I don't know how there's only 2. There should be 1, but the fact that there's 2 makes this theme deck so much better. The final decent draw supporter in this deck is Professor Kukui. Draw 2 cards. During this turn, your Pokemon's attacks do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. This is really good. I wouldn't say it's like the best supporter in this deck. It's just good for continuous Blaze Ball. If you don't feel like Charizard is gonna kill, use Professor Kukui, and there's a really good chance of kill. So, if Charizard only does 130 damage, you're gonna want to use Professor Kukui if you haven't used Brock's Grid already. You'll do 150 and you'll most likely kill anything that isn't a Pokemon EX, GX, V, or VMAX. Other than that, Professor Kukui is a decent supporter card. The second and last supporter card, definitely not least, is Pokemon Fan Club. Search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon, reveal them, and put them into your hand. Then shuffle your deck. This card is really good if you want to set up early. Early game, this card will save you. I'm not kidding, it will save you. You will get Charmanders, Nidoran females, Ponytas, and so many other cards. This is a really good early setup. It's not the best supporter card, but it's one of my favorites to use, especially in the early game. The final supporter card is Hal. This is here because it's a theme deck. If this wasn't a theme deck, there would be like welders in here or something really good. But it's a theme deck, so Hal's here. Anyways, you draw 3 cards. It's alright enough, but you don't really want to be using it as much as you want to use Cynthia, Copycat, Brock's Grid, and any other supporter card in this. Now we're moving on to item cards. The first item card is Switch. Switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. You want to use this if your Charizard's in a bad spot, for any Pokemon for that matter except Farfetch. Farfetch is just an easy kill. Then you want to use Switch if it's your turn. Switch will save Pokemon that are in the bench. You can bring a new one out and start doing a lot of damage. Combos really well with Charizard, Nidoqueen, and a lot of other things. Switch, I feel like is pretty good in this deck. I don't know why, but it's just really good. The second to last item card is definitely the best. It's Nest Ball. This is essentially Pokemon Fan Club and Nidoran combined into an item. So, Nidoran females call for family. Nest Ball is the item version of that. Search your deck for a basic Pokemon and put it onto your bench. It is by far the best early setup card in the game, and you want to be using this early on. You want to be using it early on and when you're low on bench Pokemon. If you do, you will have a very good time. Nest Ball is one of the best cards in this deck, and it's almost self-explanatory. The last item card in this deck is probably the best. Timer Ball. Flip 2 coins. For each heads, search your deck for an evolution Pokemon. Reveal it and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your deck. This is a really, really good card. You can get Nidorans, Nidorinas, Nidoqueens, Charmeleons, Charizards, Rapidashes, any evolution Pokemon you can think of. Timer Ball will do the job if you get really lucky. This is probably the best item card in this deck. It is such a good mid-game setup, I don't know how there's 2 in here. It is so good. Ending the deck off is 20 Fire Energy. There's so much energy in here that I don't think I'll be able to fit the whole screen. Anyways, really go with Continuous Blaze Ball. You'll be able to get so much energy out in such a short time. Brock's Grit can put more energy into the deck, and you want to use all your fire energy as fast as you can. To be honest, I wouldn't say use it every single turn, but when you have it, use it as much as you can. Fire energy is essential to this deck, energy card, because, and also, Charizard is really good with this. Like, this is such a broken and powerful theme deck. The best card in this deck is definitely Charizard. You want to be using this as soon as you get it. It will do so much damage. I already explained it in its own section, but Charizard is the most broken card in this deck. There are so many other good Pokemon here, but Charizard sticks out like the most sore thumb in human history. I'm not gonna count the pre-evolutions as like bad Pokemon as they're supposed to be evolved, but I feel like the worst Pokemon here is Farfetch'd. It's only good early game, and after the mid-game, you don't want to be using this fan at all. I may be seeing all these feints about early, mid-game, and late game. I keep saying all these feints, so why does it matter? I'll tell you why in a few seconds. When you get your starting hand, you want to have Farfetch'd and a Nidoran out. If you're lucky, you'll get a Charmander, but expect these two to be here. If Nidoran isn't in, unless you have Nest Ball, you can't get basics. If Farfetch'd isn't here, you don't get an early attacking option, and you don't get an actually good draw. These two cards, you will probably most likely need early game in order to win. So, I keep talking about the mid-game, so I may as well explain why the mid-game is so important. You'll have, most likely, Charmeleons, Nidorinas, and Rapidashes. You want to have Nidoqueens up as soon as possible, so you can get your Charizards out. However, Rapidash will be your shining star. It does a really good amount of damage for 2 fire energy and 4 attack that can basically be immune to everything, supposing you can get it off a lot. This is the mid-game. Your mid-game will want to be very annoying and destructive while you set up for the late game. In the late game, you will be the best. This is the late game. Charizard is by far the best card in this fan deck by a really big launch shot. You do so much damage that it almost feels like cheating. Nidoqueen is a really good setup. You can get evolution Pokemon for free with its ability, and if it's in the active spot, you can do more damage because you evolve. You still want to hold on to those Rapidashes. If your Charizard or Nidoqueen gets low, use Rapidash to buy time or get more Pokemon out. Rapidash is still really good late game. If you get Rapidash early game, you just win. I'm not kidding, you you just win. I may as well bring this up because if I don't, then no one will. Brock's Great is the best supporter card in this theme deck. You get so much energy back, supposing if you choose it in Pokemon, depending on the situation. You mostly want to get fire energy back. It combos into Kachuna's Blaze Ball so well. It's like peanut butter and jelly, except if you created a time rift. Brock's Grit is what runs this theme deck to a really big extent. The best item card in this deck is by far Nest Ball. Really good setup early game. Timer Balls are really good setup mid and late game, but the early game is what matters the most. You'll have really weak Pokemon, so you want to get as much Pokemon as possible. This is where Nest Ball comes in. It's very good at doing what it does. The pros of this theme deck is that it does so much damage. Kachuna's Blaze Ball, like I said probably like 2 billion times, is really good. You want to be using this card as much as possible. The pros are that it's pretty consistent. You do a lot of damage. If you get a really good setup, you win. It's pretty fast depending on what happens. And you'll probably be dominating the mid game with Rapidash. Now, what I've said so far, you may be thinking, this theme deck is the best theme deck in Pokemon history. Well, I don't really think so. It's just by far the best at what it can do. However, the cons of this deck should not be ignored whatsoever. If you don't get a good setup, you will lose, most likely. If you don't get the correct cards, trainers, items, and other things, you're not gonna have a fun time. It is really stage 2 reliant, as your 2 big attackers are Charizard and Nidoqueen, all stage 2s. Sure, you have Rapidash, but that's the only non-stage 2 attacker. The cons of this deck really suck, because this theme deck could have been the best theme deck ever. More smaller cons is that Charizard has low HP, so run resolve, you want to be careful on how you use it. If you don't have the perfect, or at least a good setup, you're not gonna have a fun time. I said that already, but it still matters no matter what. You want to be lucky, and if you're not, then you may as well just give up. Because this theme deck, it does not take mercy to bad players, including me. If you don't know how to use this theme deck, you're gonna be so confused. This theme deck, I don't think it's the best theme deck, but if you want to make an explosive introduction to the theme deck format, or if you just want to do a lot of damage, Relentless Flame will be the theme deck for you. What do I give this theme deck in terms of a score rating and a grade? I give this theme deck a 9 out of 10. The pros are amazing. The cons suck because this theme deck could have been the perfect theme deck. It just had everything. But the cons are so little, but there's a lot of cons that just slowly add up and ruin the theme deck. What do I give the grade? I give the grade an A. I don't think it's the best theme deck in the world, but what it can do, it does really well. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. There will be an event description in the comments, but I'll see you later. Bye.